Welcome. I'm on to the 49th, could be the 50th script, but I'm pretty much stuck in the math trigonometry making objects, and I think I'm actually starting to sculpt in a very minimalist way. I obviously could go more minimal with this, but I want to show a little script that produces this kind of funky object and parametric strange thing that I guess could be manufactured, either casting or machining. Let's take a look at it. It's a fun little thing, and I enjoy making these. Turn off the turntable, and we'll go over to shaded. Take a look at this. How is it parametric? Well, it takes a little bit to run, slows down a little bit. Some of this is unnecessary. Radius is probably the most exciting thing to play with. A very small radius. What I would suggest is unsolving, sliding the slider to whatever you want. You see how it has an effect. And then solve the solver again. And that should just change the holes in it. As you see, they kind of creep more towards the outside. The other thing, the length of this line is not really that important. It has to be a certain length. But let's go through the script to see what I made. Basically, I'm using the trigonometry functions, building a range and domain, and plugging them through all of these wonderful nodes. Sync, I guess that's how you call it, tangent, secant. You've got arctangent, you've got arccosine. There's more to choose from. All you have to do is go into your maths, take a look at trig, and play through all of these trig functions. And I've chosen a few of them here, these three to play with. And I brought them into a set of points, which I will show. A very boring set, which is kind of it's got a little slight. Actually, I don't think it has any bend. It's just unnecessarily in there weighting the points to one side. The other one is a little more interesting. I've got this strange angled curve. And like I said, with any modeling, nobody really realizes it really comes down to the points and the flow and the interpolated lines that can make for beautiful forms in dealing with NURBS. And I think that's the power of Rhino. And certainly when you move that into machining and into casting metals and fabricating in different materials, it can be very exciting. So I'm avoiding meshes right now. I'm dealing in this. I do a revolve around the one, curve around the other, and I end up with this pretty cool thing. Now I mirror it, but for right now, if I turn off the solver, if I disable this brep, and I just go so far as this mirrored. Actually, if I enable that, enable it, and disable this. Oh, what is going on? Oh. Very strange. Enable, preview. That way I can see my object, and then I'll disable this one. Sorry for that little slowdown. Basically, you can see where I have a lot of control over this, changing the form, but also changing the steps to each one. So as I move this, I actually can make some pretty cool objects, and that's where the length mattered in that farther along the script. What happens when I do this? I get a bigger revolve, bigger surface on each end. Just a really nice form to play with. The steps do have an effect, only at low counts. You can see it goes from polyline to NURBS curves and smoother and less smooth. It's kind of subtle there. And I don't think I have to worry about anything here for the domain end. Actually, let's see if my script busts if I pull this out like this. It's not as exciting to look at, but let's flare it out like that and see what happens. So let's go in. We built a brep. We capped the brep, and I'm going to enable that, and we'll see what happens to our script. It's thinking. It's saying, do I have enough juice to get over there? Let's see if they do. Looks like we actually managed it. They were long enough. Some very strange things happening at the end of this, flashing out and getting these little nuggets all cut out of the sides. So that's kind of a strange little thing. I'm not sure if I want to make that cheese grater. But needless to say, we'll take this preview off and we'll continue with there's the object. And it's still being fabricated. What I did was I took basically a brep face. I took this face and this face, which wasn't too hard. And I chose to, actually I was playing with different point counts on each one. So I could actually bring this, and it's taking a little bit to think here. I can bring down the count to 5, and then I could bring up the radius of my holes. And so I've got this surface and this surface mimicking the same. I've cleaned tree because I produced a lot of nulls. And in producing a lot of nulls, it's a very good tool. Clean tree, simplify tree, get into your sets, tree data, and learn how to use those correctly. I built some vectors to pull some lines and pipe these lines off, and that's where the length mattered. It had to go through my form depending on how far I stretched it out. And then I did a Boolean difference. I ended up with this strange little object. And at this point, I'd like to take my edit, pump up my radii to maybe 3 and bring it up to here and see what happens. And give it a second, you get these nice big holes. So what a nice parametric little machined object. I'm not sure why I'd make it, or tell somebody to model it, or have it for sketches, but it follows a pretty beautiful form and a beautiful pattern, and it's based on those trigonometric functions. So 5.5 minutes of total and absolute fun. I hope you enjoyed it, and I know I did. So I'm going to make my script blue, and I still have some other things I wanted to play with on here, but we will keep going with the trig functions. I'll keep playing around with all of these wonderful things: secant, cosecant, cosecant, and cotangent, and just see what other kind of lines and forms I can make. And all these beautiful geometries can be applied to any product design, whatever you can imagine, or minimalist conceptual art. Let's leave up my object. Thanks for watching.